What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Baus. I am a Colorado certified gardener and a lover of all things spicy. But today we're taking a step away from the spicy to talk about Micro Dwarf Tomatoes. If you've been a long-time viewer of this channel, you might have seen last year I did a review of several different types of Micro Dwarf Tomatoes that I was growing out in my garden. I fell in love with these several years ago and I've been growing them ever since, and this year I grew even more new varieties, as well as a handful of my favorites from previous seasons. I'm going to focus mostly on new varieties this year so we can get a quick look at the plants, how they grew, what their fruit looked like, but we're going to taste a whole bunch of stuff today. And so if you're wondering what seeds to buy for next year because you want to grow Micro Dwarf tomatoes but you're not sure which ones will be delicious, I'll try and do my best to give you an honest and fair review of every one of these that I'm going to taste today, tell you how they taste, what I like, what I don't like, and also I'll just give you an overall rundown of why I keep growing Micro Dwarf tomatoes because I think they're awesome. So let's dive right into it. This could be a long video. I'm going to try to move quickly through them. I'll put chapters in it, so if you want to jump around to a specific variety, you can. You won't hurt my feelings, just so long as you let it play 3 times all the way through for the YouTube algorithm as well. All right, so we're going to start with one that I'm super excited about just because the plant has been incredible. It's big, it's putting on a ton of fruit, and they are beautiful. It's called Super Bunny. So Super Bunny is a variety I got from Forgotten Heirlooms, I do believe, this year. The plant itself is probably the biggest one I have this year or any year that I can remember. Maybe the Fuzzy Wuzzies are competing this year, we'll see. But look at this thing. It has these beautiful fruits growing all over it. They start green with a lot of purple blush coloring that kind of streaks down, and then they ripen through this yellow to orange to red color while keeping some of that purple blush. Awesome looking plant. I'm hopeful they're delicious too because I already want to grow these again next year. And of course, the only way to find out how good they are is to slice one open, take a quick look inside, and then eat it. So it came open pretty easily with my dull knife. Looks really, really juicy. Not too many seeds. Let's take a taste. All right, Super Bunny, Micro Dwarf Tomato. Okay, right off the bat, of course, super juicy. Decent amount of like snap and crunch to the skin. Would have been better if I didn't cut it in half, obviously. But what's interesting is that they're slippery. Very mild, very mellow, almost apple juice-like sweetness. Nothing overpowering. It does not have a strong tomato flavor at all, right? Really, really kind of fresh. I taste more tomato when I exhale than I did when I bit into it. Really nice though. Nothing stand out. I won't say like, hey, these are really sweet, they're like candy, because they're not. They're a mild sweetness, they're a mild flavor. Everything around them so far is pretty middle of the road mild, except for their appearance. That's just absolutely beautiful. So Super Bunny, nothing offensive about it, which for a guy who prefers tomatoes, you know, broken down into hot sauce or some other way to consume them, saying it's not offensive to eat is pretty good place to start. Let's move on to the next one. All right, up next, I want to take a look at this mini Marzano variety. So this is a Micro Dwarf variety that somewhat resembles a Marzano tomato, but smaller, obviously. The plant itself, absolutely loaded with fruits. Love the way it looks. I think it is possibly one of my favorites out there right now, just because of how full it got. It's weighing itself down with fruit. The fruits themselves are pretty cool. They have like some striping, right? So they ripen to red, but they have kind of this yellow-orange striping that seems to stay there while they ripen. A pretty fruit always gets some early points with me. I hope they're also a tasty fruit. Give it the old sliceroo. Okay. Looks nice on the inside. Kind of looks like a Marzano or a paste tomato type, but I've heard they don't necessarily taste that way. I'm about to find out. All right, mini Marzano Micro Dwarf Tomato. Okay. So look, it doesn't taste like a Marzano. It really doesn't. It doesn't have the same consistency or flavors as a full-grown Marzano tomato, but what it has going for it is very, very bright flavor. Super juicy. Nice consistency to the flesh. It's not real tough, but it also doesn't just collapse or melt in your mouth. You have to chew it a little, which I prefer. I prefer some structure to a tomato. Flavor is a little bit citrusy and bright immediately. Not too acidic tasting, just citrusy, if that makes sense. A sweetness or a kind of a tartness is a better word. After that initial kind of tart shock, it does have a nice sweetness to it. So my mouth right now tastes sweet. It tastes like almost like a ketchup, which is, you know, a dumb thing to say when you're eating tomatoes, but that kind of a sweetness, like sugary sweetness with a little bit of tangy tartness on top of it. So I'm excited about that because I have a lot of these on that plant, as you saw, and I'm going to be using them in hot sauce today, right after this video. So I will find out how they translate to hot sauce as well. Up next, we are going to look at Pummelfee. Pummelfee, I guess. I got these from my friend Debbie in the pepper lovers community. She is a gardener based out of the Netherlands, sent these to me to grow this year, and I'm super excited that I did because look at this plant. This is absolutely loaded. I am pretty sure there is no micro dwarf tomato I'm growing this year with anywhere near this much production. Really cool plant. You can see I have to go around the backside. I am growing 2 of them side by side in a pair. I did that with a lot of these micro dwarfs, but each of these plants has a huge haul on it. It almost reminds me of like a stereotypical, really perfectly grown head of grapes, right? We have this big bunch of grapes all packed in. There's so many tomatoes on here. So I'm hopeful, very hopeful that it's gonna be delicious, because if not, well, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with them. You can see the fruit is very standard red cherry tomato looking fruit. It's pretty cute, you know. A little bit of spotchiness on all of them. That kind of yellow coloration still showing through here and there. But these are ripe. You can tell if I squeeze it, it's ripe, it's ready to be eaten. And so now, the ultimate test. Can I slice one open one-handed? Pretty good. A little bit of a explosion here, but it's all right. It's kind of a crime scene. All right, Pummelfee. Other than where I squished it, inside is not too dense, but very, very juicy. So let's see what the texture and taste are like. Pummelfee Micro Dwarf Tomato. Okay. Well, I'm not sad to have a ton of these because that's really good. Super juicy, very, very sweet. Like candy, sugary, delicious, kind of melony, not melony like a person, melon, M-E-L-O-N, inspired flavors. Yeah, I'm gonna do that again real quick because that's tiny, tiny bit of that traditional tomato flavor that you might expect on that first burst, but then it's instant sweetness. Very, very juicy, which is a good thing. And again, while I was a little concerned seeing the inside that maybe it wasn't gonna have enough structure, it's great. It's just enough resistance so that you have something to bite into. It doesn't completely dissolve on your tongue. And that sweetness is fantastic. Really, the best way I can describe it is it tastes tropical. It tastes like melon. It tastes like fruit, right? Which, I mean, tomato is fruit, but not at all what I was expecting out of these little red cherry tomatoes. I thought it was just gonna be like any other cherry tomato. To be honest, I was a little bit nervous that it wasn't gonna be great. I was gonna have a big basket full of them, and there's at least that many more on the plant still, and it will put on another flush, I'm sure of it. All right, Pummelfee, current stack rank right now of the ones I've tasted is gonna go Pummelfee, Mini Marzano, and then Super Bunny as far as flavors go. Pummelfee is just absolutely the sweetest and kind of the most intense, but also very, very enjoyable flavor. Clean up my mess here a little bit on this beautiful, custom-made, one-of-a-kind Baus Grows cutting board. It was a gift from my brother. All right, up next, we're gonna get into one that's a little bit different and pretty different from anything I had last year as well, so I'm excited to see what it's like. This is the creamy yellow. I got these from Forgotten Heirlooms as well. I wanted to try some different things this year, and I wanted to try as many as possible. I love the color, right? I wanted to see the inside. If the inside is a pale yellow like this as well, I've got to plant more of these because this one's not doing great. As you can see in the plant here, it didn't put on a ton of fruit just yet. It does have some more flowers going. It seems to have hit a hard time. Hopefully, if this doesn't come back and produce more fruit, I will grow some of these indoors if I like it, but almost exclusively because I want this color for hot sauce. All right, let's see if I can slice it open here. I'm trying not to just smash it, and this knife is rather dull. Okay, what the heck is this? Looks to be seedless, or I don't know. Different than any tomato I think I've ever seen on the inside. It has a lot of firmness, but it's clearly very juicy. It's neat. I'm intrigued, but am I gonna like it? Creamy yellow Micro Dwarf tomato? All right, well, Cliff Notes, I'm not a fan. It has a texture more like the traditional paste tomato, which is okay, but not my favorite. Flavor-wise, it has a very strong, classic tomato-y kind of flavor at first, followed by a tiny little bit of like a bitter spiciness that's kind of common in some of the other Micro Dwarfs I've tasted, especially the ones that tend to be pointy. And I don't know if that's because of some shared genetic, but not crazy about that texture though. It's just a little bit weird. Almost like the texture and firmness of a canned pear and how it's kind of squishy but kind of mushy. I don't know. Yeah, flavor-wise, not my favorite. Definitely has a little bit more of that kind of earthy, umami, tomato-y traditional flavor. I don't know the best way to describe it. What I think of when I think of what does a tomato taste like, it has some of that. So far, that's in 4th place out of the 4 I've eaten. So let's move on to another. All right, this yellow guy is called Orange Russian, but that ain't orange, that's yellow. I honestly can't remember if I grew these last year. I probably should have gone back and watched last year's videos to see, but I don't remember them being so big if I did grow them last year and pointy. It's got a nice little nip at the bottom here, pointy. I like the shape, I like the size. I usually prefer yellow colored tomatoes, so maybe this will be another win. I think there's only one really easy way to find that out. Let's take a look inside and then put it inside. Okay, pretty thick and dense flesh in here. Very juicy as always. Let's find out how it tastes. All right, Orange Russian. It's not bad. It was a little bit tart at first, a little acidic, a little bit citrusy. Very juicy, nice texture. Very bright flavor though. Definitely acidic, definitely citrusy flavors. I would have believed if somebody told me they'd put a little bit of lemon juice in there. That's how bright and citrusy that was. Not as sweet and delicious as the Pummelfee. Brighter and more citrusy, I guess is the right word here, compared to the mini Marzano. Definitely a step above the Super Bunny. This might be 2nd place right now, so we're gonna go Pummelfee as best tasting, Orange Russian, Russian Orange, whatever this is, the big yellow ones, 2nd place. Mini Marzano 3rd place, Super Bunny 4th place, Creamy Yellow 5th place. That's where our standings are right now. I'm going to now go into ones that I'm pretty darn sure we reviewed last year, but they're doing great again this year, so let's take a quick taste. Why not? Blau Zimmertomate. Again, I know I'm saying that wrong. I apologize to all my German native language speakers. I'm pretty sure it's German. I don't know. Blau Zimmertomate. It sounds good to me, okay? These ones though, I love growing every year. They grow really dark on the plant as they start to ripen up. It's sometimes hard to tell because it's usually the bottom of the fruit here that turns ripe first. So you'll see that change colors and the top stays pretty dark. So you might not notice it. You got to get in there and inspect your plants, people. But you know, it's just a great looking tomato that I really think everyone should be growing. So if I remember right, last year my comments were around it being kind of a traditional tomato flavor, but yeah, it tastes like tomato. Slice these up and put them on a BLT kind of flavor. Nothing wrong with that. As far as like intensity of flavor, it reminds me a bit of the Super Bunny in that it's pretty mild, pretty mellow, but it's pleasant. No bitterness, no sweetness, none of that weird kind of pepper-like spice. Will not be sad about these. Up next, I want to take a quick look at another one I'm pretty sure we did last year. I know I grew them last year, but this is Bullfinch. A bunch of Bullfinch. Yeah, I definitely did that joke last year. This year was kind of fun. They all ripened up pretty simultaneously across each branch, and so I got all these little clusters. Makes it look fancy and pretty. Gonna be plenty of tomatoes coming off of it. Let's just do a quick refresher taste. I forgot to film the inside, but it looks like a tomato inside, folks. All right, Bullfinch. Oh yeah, that's pretty sweet, actually. Tiny bit of acidity, but very, very nice sweetness. Actually a little bit similar to the type of sweetness in the Pummelfee, but far less intense. A little bit of that kind of melon island tropical sweet flavor. Still very, very good tomato, great texture. Nothing wrong with a little Bullfinch. Let's do another yellow one real quick. I'm gonna breeze through these because I'm pretty sure I did this one last year as well. This is a yellow cap tomato. I know I grew them last year. I just don't remember if I ate it on camera last year. So just in case, great texture, good structure to the flesh. Juicy, bright flavor. Definitely acidic, definitely a little bit citrusy. No bitterness, nothing too strong. Pretty mild flavor-wise though. Like it's all there. It's not slap you in the face. It didn't make me go, mmm. Tasty tomato, yellow cap micro dwarf. Would definitely recommend giving those a grow. It grew pretty well. It put on quite a bit of fruit, and they're really a bright, beautiful yellow. All right, I think there's just one more we're gonna try today out of everything I've got harvested so far, and that is the Japanese micro or Japanese mini, I think they might actually call it. But this is a micro dwarf tomato. I grew it last year. I'm pretty sure I reviewed it last year. Again, much like the Bullfinch, they ripened up pretty evenly, so I've got all these nice little clusters that they look really pretty for the camera. Japanese mini, micro, whatever it's called. Closer to what I think of when I think of a cherry tomato flavor. You know, the ones you get from the farmer's market or the grocery store. Bright, citrusy kind of sweetness right up front that quickly fades into that classic tomato flavor. A little bit acidic, pretty good structure to it. It does kind of melt in your mouth a little bit more than some of the others. Doesn't necessarily hold up as much when you start chewing, but not to the point where it's like unpleasant, which to me, that's like if it's really squishy and liquidy, I don't want that. I want it to have some structure. That still has it. Very good micro dwarf tomato. And in general, why do I grow micro dwarf tomatoes? I mean, partly I got a huge harvest so far early in the season off of a handful of very small plants. They do really well for me in what's the most challenging spot in my yard. I put them on my deck in raised, elevated container type beds. They get, you know, less than a foot of soil. They're in direct southern, very intense sunlight all day. Pretty much no shade for any of these guys, a little bit maybe in the afternoon depending on what time of year it is, but they get cooked. In Colorado here, that sun is really, really intense. If you've never experienced sun at altitude, then you don't quite get that maybe, but let me tell you, it is hot where these sit. They have no shade, no relief. They get drip irrigation, and that's pretty much it. I feed them at the beginning, middle, and end of the season. I don't give these a regular dose of fertilizer. I've just let compost and slow release organic fertilizer take care of things. They're doing really well. I had some challenges this year with a couple of plants. They didn't grow well, they didn't thrive, or maybe they had some other issues, whether that was herbicides or pests or disease. I can't really tell. But those ones are gone. There's plenty of room for more. I'll do another quick video on micro dwarf tomatoes later this year because I do have a few growing in my vertical garden as well. So keep in touch. If you want to learn more about micro dwarf tomatoes, leave a comment below or hit me up on Discord. I'll leave a link below. The pepper lovers community, you can talk about tomatoes there too. We're not peppers only. But seriously, give it a try. If you have any interest whatsoever, I will hopefully have seeds from all of these varieties and more. But if any of these catch your interest, keep an eye on my website, sauceandspice.net. I'll have seeds for you for next season. And always, always, always remember, plants help us grow.